Hello all. Throat's changed. It's going through some kind of morphosis. I guess to celebrate our new weather. We finally are getting a big storm. Let me show you. So in this thunder and rain and all that, California in the US is still way below normal. We're about 2¼ inches of rain right now. We're supposed to be almost 11 to 12 inches of rain right now, with a total of 20 inches at the end of December. Well, I don't think we're going to even come close to that. All right, so what I really wanted to talk about was the summit in Paris called the COP21 conference. They finished the conference, and I have a video down below in the description. It's very short, of just one part of the conference. It's just a few minutes, but you can kind of get the feel that the correct stuff is being talked about. All right, well, let me go over to the board and show you. Okay, so the U.S. has put out more pollution than any other country per person. Right? They put out this much pollution over decades and decades. They knew about here in the 1960s that all this pollution was going to cause major problems around the world, but yet they kept expanding it. They didn't curb much. They put some pollution control to hide the dirty air that was coming out of your auto, but they did nothing about the CO2 and a few of the other horrible, that keeps pumping out. So the U.S. kept doing this year after year after year, and their pollution just got so big, and the lifestyle so wasteful in the U.S., they felt as if that was given to them, and they were not going to give up a very wasteful existence. Big houses, using up a lot of land per person. So in this conference, some of the countries that are going to be swamped with sea level rise are complaining that the U.S. isn't going to compensate them, help them pay to either relocate or bring some material to bring their islands up about 40, 50 feet above sea level so that they can live there still. So the U.S. immediately came and said, take that off. And they took it out of the plans during the night. They just took it out. I don't know how they get away with it, but anyway, anything that referenced money being paid, being paid from the U.S. to any other country was taken out right away, off the table. The U.S. is not going to change its ways, period. We've been like this forever, and we're going to stay this way. We're going to put as much pollution as we want out there, and you guys are going to have to change, and that's all there is to it. And part of this video I'm talking to you about down there pretty much shows you why. You know, in the 60s, the U.S. was the one that was ahead in the environmental movement. They started it, they continued it until Reagan got in, and once Reagan got in, they threw all of the environmental stuff out the window and went the other way. They even tore off the solar panels that were on the White House from Jimmy Carter. And ever since then, the U.S. has been against any kind of change that will cost any kind of money at all. They have to fight wars, lots of them. They need to distribute these arms to everyone so that these wars continue. And they're not about to spend a single penny on changing out of fossil fuels into renewables. So there's really only one way to do that, is you take your population, and every single person has a number of watts that they can burn per day. So in other words, if that wattage, that means all fossil fuel use is what we're talking about. their fossil fuel allowance equals this amount. Let's say 10 watts for the first year, 9 watts for the second year, so on and so forth, 8 watts for the third year, and we bring it down to that 1.5 watts per day per person, which I believe is sustainability on planet Earth using fossil fuels. But of course these nations aren't talking about that at all. And that's all it is, figuring out how much fossil fuel each person per day can burn, and that's what you go for. And then you give the rest to the free market, and they'll figure out how to make a television run for all day on less than a watt. It's just that simple, guys. It's not complicated. Yet these people are in the sandbox throwing sand at each other, saying who owes who what, and I'm not having this on the table or that on the table, when it's really about science. Watts equals how much fossil fuels you'll get to use per day on planet Earth for sustainability. And you keep bringing that down till you get to that sustainable part. And the thing is, we don't have any time. I want to show you 2 more things before we end this video. Let's take a look at what's happening in December as far as temperature records go around the world. And I think you might be quite amazed. So here in December in the US, for example, we had the warmest December on record ever, with Florida being the warmest and the actual West Coast being the coolest. It's just the opposite of what it was last year. So this record warmth was both in the US and Canada. Now over in Europe, Iceland and the UK were hit hard by hard 24-hour rains. In fact, they broke their all-time heaviest 24-hour rainfall record of all time. And it goes back, mushy, it goes back a long way. Are you paying attention? And there's one other thing that's going on now, is the amount of CO2 and how fast it is going up. I talked about this in previous environmental updates, and this is just mind-boggling how fast it's going up. And what's even more mind-boggling is that a major online news organization put out that it's actually slowing down, that it's stalled out. I said, where are they getting this information? All right, well, let's just go look at what the actual readings are of the instruments that are put out there, and not just say what they are. Let's show the actual science. And this denial, this wholesale denial is just going to get you put in an oven. Do you really want to cook yourself to death? If we go above this 2C, we're going to have death zones all over the planet, and we're racing to get past. We're already put ourselves up into like 3 or 4 degrees above C already, and as I've explained in the past, it comes on slowly. The CO2 comes up, and then the heat comes on later, years later. 2 to 5, 10 years later it'll take, and then that heat will turn on, and then there's no turning back. We're in for the hard ride of boiling ourselves to death. Okay, let's go take a look at CO2 numbers. When I just checked it yesterday, it was 401. Now it's 402. You'd call that calming down, stalling out? What science are you looking at? People, hello, red alert. Come on. The storms this year are worse than ever in any past history. We're getting harder rains, harder winds, and flooding like you can't believe all over the world. Especially the Middle East. That El Nino didn't exactly go over to California. It went over to Europe and the Middle East and flooded all over there. And they're saying maybe in January it'll come over and give us a good soaking here in California. We hope so, but we're pretty doubtful now. It's pretty late in the year. So that ends the update in case you need to get going. What I wanted to do now is to update you on the problems here we're having, other than a little congestion here. Our computer systems are sort of dying. They're outdated, 2004. So one has finally died, and we've had to go and order a new PC. We had almost $500 donated through the people that watch the channel. In the description bar, there'll be a place where you can go buy things, and we get part of the proceeds, along with the makers and the distributors. It's quite a good deal, and everybody gets a little bit of the money, and you're helping small independent little stores and that type of thing. So we'd appreciate it if you guys could go and purchase something and help us pay for this. The camera's not doing too well either. So we'll continue on as long as we can, and we're looking forward to the new PC. And maybe I'll be putting out more videos if the editing's a little bit faster. Thanks goes out to all the people that went over to Paris at the COP21 summit and did whatever you could do to try and get something done. But honestly, I have to give them a big F, as usual. We didn't really expect any change. The change has to come from us, and if it doesn't come from us, we're going to cook ourselves. And that's just the way it is. How that's going to happen, nobody knows. Nobody really knows the pathway there. We're going into a super meltdown on the economy worldwide now, it looks like. So much news to talk about, and so thanks a lot for all the ups and the downs and the new comments on the last video. And yes, I did get attacked by a mosquito. I honestly think it was a drone from the U.S. mosquito base there in Studio 7. I think they have a secret base. That mosquito stayed on my neck for over 20 minutes. Have you ever known a mosquito to stay in your neck for 20 minutes? And then the very next day you become sick? I think it's a plot. It's a U.S. drone. They're the size of mosquitoes now, and you can't even feel them. All right, guys, until next time. Do you understand that? F. Politicians are useless.